What's going on, guys? Welcome back today, and we are doing the Opus 12 water set review. Now, we only have one more to do after this, which should be coming out at the same time, and you guys will probably, it'll be a lot shorter, but I always save water for last. That's a water player, and I think water did an amazing time, did really, really well this time in releasing a lot of cards that not only are are going to influence the meta, but they're going to be impactful in the next couple metas. And so we're just going to start off with these right here. Ultros Realm and Cuatro Queen. When Ultros is put from the field in the break zone, you may pay a water. When you do so, search for a card named Ultros and add it to your hand. You can put Ultros into the break zone, choose a forward. It loses 5,000 power until the end of the turn. So the card itself, is something for you to deal with opponent's cards, and lets you like thin out the deck and keep the engine running along with the bigger ultros. So I'm gonna try to work something out with this, but I like the filtering and the recursion of this. There's a lot of cards that do things like, there's not a lot of cards, but these cards are starting to be able to do this more often. Like we got the new Emperor, we had the first Ultros, and that's just the beginning. I think effects when they leave the field or they enter the break zone or whatever are going to be more important as this set goes on. So I don't know how many people will take the time to explore Ultros more, but I'm definitely going to. Next is Realm. First of all, this art is absolutely amazing. If you guys have the full art, it's beautiful. But she is 6 EX burst. When Realm enters the field, choose a character without the multiple symbol in the top right other than Realm. You may search for a character with the same name and add it to your hand, right? So let's say, really what this card says is, A, I'm going to have another one of whatever it is on the field that's threatening you, and B, I can use S's now. I would have loved a card like this a long time ago, to be able to get off certain things. You can do the Sephiroths, you can do, back in the old day, doing Blitz Ace would have been fantastic. Unfortunately, something like that wasn't super important, but I think now this set has kind of brought in team attacking and stuff. Now I think as we go down into the next sets, they're going to emphasize all of their other unique card traits, and specials will be one of them, meaning a card like Realm will see a lot more play. As of right now, she will probably be a one of in some decks if she makes the cut. Again, she is 4 for 5 and just gets you one. I like that she's EX burst, so that makes it very useful. I can kind of see her in a certain Anacreus build, sort of, because she's a 4 EX burst, kind of fits in that, if it hits it, I can search for one more kind of thing. But that deck is already kind of limited to ones anyway, so it might be tough, but I think it's possible. Like I said, it'll squeeze its way into a few decks. Not too many, but it will be useful. Cuatro Queen is also a monster in all situations. When she enters the field, choose a monster of cost 2 or less in your break zone and add it to your hand. It's also a forward. If it's also a forward, play it onto the field instead. So 2 very good effects. Obviously, pays for itself, becomes a 2-drop, and either drops something else or replenishes your hand, which are both very good options. Waff and Water and Queen tag. So I don't know if that'll be relevant in the future, but I do think, being as it is more monster support and WAF support, there's a way this will see play in the future as well. Next, we're going to the backups and a summon. Kais is just such an interesting card. FFCC, we talk about this category a lot because it's such a popular search engine for backups and characters and stuff like that. So when Kais enters the field, look at the top card of your deck and your opponent's deck, put them to the top of the bottom of their respective decks, and then you can tap to choose Leo, gain 2,000 power until the end of the turn. Like we saw a new Leo in Earth, I believe it was, which is okay, but I think really what I'm highlighting here is the being able to affect your opponent's next draw. So now with this and Lani, you're kind of messing with your opponent's cards a little more, and I like that. It's also a way for you guys to start cheating in certain things like this with the Ultimecia and the old Golbez. There's a lot of weird cards and combos that people are obviously a little too afraid to explore, but if we get a chance, we'll definitely try to get into them myself. Next is Scholar. When Scholar enters the field, choose up to 2 active forwards you control, duel them, and then draw a card for each forward you have dueled due to this ability. It's not a bad card. I really enjoy it. Obviously, opening up this and Layla Viking in a turn is just fantastic. Turn 1. And so, water, if you do see water, it probably plays something like that. I think I don't know how much people will use it, but I do think it's a good way to level out a turn and set up for a following turn, being able to draw multiple cards and kind of almost leave your forwards out of harm's way for certain matchups, or put them in harm's way for ice, obviously. But it's not a bad card. I think both of these backups will definitely see play in some regard. Remora, choose a forward, draw a card, then until the end of the turn it loses 2,000 power for each card in your hand. I like this card a lot. It's just, it's very on par with what water does. Obviously, draw and reduce. It's strong. It is costly, but the fact that it's EX burst, just you can kind of throw it in there to always draw and almost remove. I think water might be moving into more of a control-based deck. The thing is that Fanfrit isn't enough anymore, so playing cards like maybe Remora or the bigger Fanfrit might just help you keep up, mainly because of the draw the card and the bigger giant reduction, right? Like, just something to think about. But next, which is probably my favorite part of this whole set, it's going to be Beatrix, Gawain, and Steiner. I put them together, obviously, because they're knights, but Beatrix has pretty much brought back the deck itself from the grave, from the break zone. When Beatrix or a job knight enters the field, all forwards you control gain 2,000 power until the end of the turn. And then for 0 CP, during this turn, the cost required to cast your next job knight forward is reduced by 2. It cannot become 0. You can only use this ability during your turn, and only once per turn. So what that means is that cards like Gawain become 2-drop and 1 fire, 1 water, and then searches you 2 cards. When Gawain enters the field, you may search for up to 1 fire job knight other than Gawain and up to 1 water job knight other than Gawain, and add them to your hand. Unfortunately, right now we are limited to fire knights and water knights. There's obviously more water knight targets than there is relevant fire knights, but it's still a very good card. If you guys haven't seen the deck, please wait up. I don't know if it'll come out soon, if not within a week's time for sure. I've been playing with multiple versions of the knight deck, and I'm gonna share them all with you soon. So stay tuned for that. And Steiner, he's a half decent card, but he's probably one of the better ones that came out for the water set. And he is 9, and so he made the cut here. When Steiner enters the field, select one of the following 2 actions. All forwards you control gain 2,000 power until the turn. So on top of bringing him out and buffing everyone, Beatrix will also buff everyone. So that's 4k to your board, allowing you to swing comfortably over things, and then or choose a forward of cost 3 that your opponent controls, return it to its owner's hand. So it's actually the fire that gives it the buff, and the water that says send something back, which isn't bad either way, right? Like, with the influx of being able to put a bunch of bodies on board, they're not all necessarily enter the field abilities, and so I think returning cards is safe right now, but 3 or less is kind of limited. So we'll see how relevant that goes. But 2/7 isn't bad again, and buffs everyone. So yeah, he might see play as well. He will probably make his way into the 9 deck, just because he's so cheap. And lastly, Yoona, Sildra, and Ferris. Yoona is an absurdly great card, and I'm super happy that she was the box topper. In my opinion, this is probably the best box topper we've gotten since they started doing those. First of all, 3/7 water, gold wings, and category 10. When Yoona enters the field, if a forward you controlled formed a party this turn, draw 2 cards. When Yoona forms a party and attacks, choose a forward. It loses 4,000 power for each attacking forward until the end of the turn. And then for 0 CP, name an element other than light or dark. Yoona becomes the named element until the end of the turn. You can only use this ability once per turn. So main phase 2, you have already attacked with a party. She'll come in, draw 2 cards, and then after that, she's going to be able to form a party with anybody and reduce by 4 AK pretty much, right? So AK minimum. So when you form a party, it's 2, so it'll cost 4,000 for each forward. So you're pretty much going to be able to get rid of things. So if they don't answer her quickly, she's going to be a problem. Um, or I guess leaving her alone is fine too, but you should probably get rid of her. But she pretty much pays for herself, obviously, and just keeps the deck going. So again, the set has been like focusing on party attacking, and she's a great card for such a like mechanic. Next is Sildra, which I think brought together a lot of decks. This set. Search for 2 water characters, 2 category 5 characters, or one of each with different cost, and add them to your hand. Now, I have to look into this a little bit more, and if anybody knows the answers, please confirm here. Being is that I'm kind of been away for such a long time, I can't really identify the rules so much, but I believe it is you can search for any of these combinations, but they have to be different cost anyway. But that's okay. It shouldn't really be a restriction. What I mean, like, so you can obviously search your 5-drop forward that you're looking for, or your 3-drop Yoona, or your 4-drop Ferris, and count it as a category or water for yourself, and then search a backup or another forward. It's never going to be a problem that you have to, but if again, just for some clarity, I'll have to look into this. But yeah, opening this instead of and not opening a backup is just as good, because you can play this turn 1. Let's say after your mulligan, obviously you don't get anything good. You're still opening a bad hand, but you draw into the Sildra, or you open the Sildra. Instead, Sildra pretty much fixes everything. Excuse me. Sildra will just grab any 2 backups, set up your next 2 plays. Obviously, with the rise in hand destruction and hand disruption, discard as you call it sometimes, that's obviously not the best play, but it helps your first turns, and then it helps all the bridge plays later. So you can search in some cases your engine, right? Like if you're using any water based engine or any category 5 based engine, all those are a summon away. I'm not going to go through all the lists of cards this specific summon helped, or the specific decks, but it is a bunch of them, and it is very good. Next is Ferris, the Warrior of Light. The support Warrior of Light support it needed category 5 water fire. When Ferris or a Warrior of Light forward enters the field, select one of the following actions. Choose a forward, deal 2,000 damage for each job Warrior of Light forward you control, or during this turn the clash card, cast your next job Warrior of Light is reduced by 2 and cannot become 0. Yeah, it's the same thing as the Beatrix, kind of you can, it doesn't buff everyone, but you have to choose to buff one person, or the next one is cheaper. So you're obviously, you have a pattern here where you're just reducing things as you go, and it's going to be really good. I haven't run into one, unfortunately, but I'm sure it's not far along before this deck makes it into the top tables of tournaments. So if you guys have figured it out, good for you. If you want help, send me a list and we can talk about it. I want to see what it's looking like. But yeah, guys, Water is a great set this time. Water brought a lot of great cards, and yeah, this is going to wrap up. Well, the Light and Dark one will wrap us up, but that one's really short. So look forward to all the new decks that I'm going to be sharing with you guys, and I'll see you next time.